All right, what's up, everyone? This is Sam, aka Wakeman VGC, um, and today I am here to bring you my team reveal for the Great Lakes Draft League Season 2. Um, I'm really excited about this season. As most of you watching probably know, I am running this league. I'm really happy with how things have been going so far, and I'm really excited for now that some of the drafts are starting to finish for the season to start. But that being said, I I wanted to just kind of go over my draft, and I also wanted to reveal my new mascot and team name, the Great Lakes Aces. The Great Lakes Grim Snarls are no more, um, and yeah, I'm really excited. I really like this logo. As many of you know, Cinderace, if you've watched any of my VBA matches in the past two seasons of it, you'll know I love Cinderace. It's one of my favorite mons to draft, so I thought it was fitting. Um, so that being said, I'm just going to go over my individual picks for this league and kind of talk about um, what roles they're playing in my team and why I picked them. So starting off, if I can. So, real shocker. First pick was Cinderace. This is our mascot. But further than that, I just really wanted to use it again. I just used it in non-Dynamax format in VBA Season 3, and I was just really excited to use it again in a Max format. So, we all know what Cinderace does at this point. It uses attacking moves. It does damage. The really cool thing here is, as you're gonna see in my next couple of picks, I also drafted a weather core, a sun core, and because Cinderace is technically a fire type but changes types so often, I'm not really worried about having two fire types because you'll see I took a fire type Sunsetter as well, which I guess there's only fire type Sunsetters, but anyway, yeah, like, I mean, part of the main benefit of Gmax Cinderace is its Gmax fireballs are like base 160 power, I believe, or 150. I think I don't remember. It's one of those two, but it's very strong. And on top of that, it gets a sun boost. Um, and I've done some calcs and it's disgusting. Um, but yeah, I mean, Cinderace is a really great mon. I wanted to take it first just because I was afraid it would get sniped. So that being said, some of the synergies it has on my team, it can set some with max flares if I need to. Like, let's say for whatever reason or another I don't want to bring Ninetales, maxing and clicking max flare in matchups where Cinderace is faster than their team. Next to Venu, which could like spam sleep powder or something, I think could be really good. Alternatively, I can just spam max airstreams, and that's really nice for mons that are mid speed on my team, like Rotom Wash or a couple others that you'll see. Um, but yeah, I this was kind of one of my build around mons, so um, you're gonna see more of my remaining picks kind of tailored to make Cinderace to support Cinderace and make it do well. Um, Notable moves, standard coverage moves. People do tend to sleep on the fact that it gets stuff like Coaching Snarl and Court Change, which are very, very good support moves. And yeah, I'm just this is a comfort pick for me, and I really love Cinderace, and I am just kind of looking forward to using it again. So next up, I wanted to draft Cinderace again, but I wanted to draft it in a context on a comp that I'm not used to using, so that I would kind of be able to, because I am of the opinion that Cinderace is a very, very versatile or comp versatile mon. It can do really well on a lot of different comps. So I decided to go for, like I said before, a Sun team. Um, so my second pick was Venusaur, also a tier one, and rules in my league are that both Cinderace, both Cinderace and Venusaur are able to use Gmax and non Gmax interchangeably, which is really nice. So Venusaur, it's only got a base 100 special attack, but when you think about like just the speed and then the fact that Gmax Vine Lash is insanely good, um, it's really nice. And then it even gets things like, first of all, I think it pairs very well offensively with Cinderace. It handles water types, which are even more discouraged by the fact that I'm setting Sun. Um, you can use Gmax Vine Lash because this team ended up being, shocker. If any of you know me, you will not be surprised. This team ended up being very hyper offensive, and uh, Gmax Vine Lash can allow it like partners, whether it's Cinderace or whatever else, to like blitz out um, things that have a sash potentially, or things where you're barely missing the calc. Because that's the nice thing, is like a lot of the times when you're using like a super effective move into something, like a Cinderace Iron Head into something like a Grimmsnarl or something, like just as an example, you're calcing Grimmsnarl to live on like 1%, right? Because you just want it to live. That might not be the best example, but you get my point. But Vinelash makes like those kind of like specifically calced. I calced this to live this. Mons die, and I think that's really valuable to keep momentum going, because like especially with max moves, like if you're if you're Vinelash, like when you click a I when you click a max move and it doesn't kill, then you have to use another max move to kill that mon, and you start to lose momentum. Um, but other than that, it doesn't get the best coverage, but it gets workable coverage, as well as stuff like Sleep Powder, Charm, Grassy Pledge, which is technically an option because I have Cinderace. Um, Nature Power is a cool move in case I'm going against like an opposing terrain team and I need, Psychic or Electric or Fairy coverage for whatever reason. Um, but yeah, I really like Venusaur, and I'm really excited to use it. I drafted it in the very first draft league I ever played in. So it's been years since I used Venusaur. Next up is Rotom Wash. So I was 10. I guess I should have mentioned I was 10th pick in this draft, and so I was out of 12. So I was close to the wheel, but not quite. Um, so basically, when it came to these wheel picks, it was basically just okay. Dinah and Rolo are between me and what. So which of them is going to, or which of these two mons that I want right now are most likely to be sniped from them, and then I take that first. So I took Rotom Wash here. Um, I mean, everybody knows Rotoms are tried and true in draft format. They're very, very good. I wanted a strong water type to complement my really strong, or to complete my Firewater Grass core alongside Cinderace and Venusaur, as well as I don't ever. I've drafted a couple teams now with no electric type, and I don't ever want to do that again. I think having only one answer to bulky waters can be a huge issue. And Rotom Wash deals with water types exceptionally well, because of its ability to resist their like common moves like ice and water, water stabs and ice coverage. But um, so I did. I guess I kind of put some spoilers in here, but I did take Purloin, which we'll talk about in a couple picks. But it goes really well with Fake Tears support from that. It completes the Firewater Grass core. It deals with mons that people would bring to counter Sun core, so like, maybe strong rock types or ground types to deal with Cinderace or Ninetales or things like that. Um, and then just, I mean, again, I don't think I have to explain the Rotom forms too much. Their bulk is incredible. They can set up. They don't really need to set up, but they can. Scarf sets are amazing. They get great moves like Will-O-Wisp, Electro Web, Trick, Foul Play, Eerie Impulse on top of their, standard dual stab coverage plus Dark Pulse and Shadow Ball. So yeah, Rotom is not one that I particularly built around, but I know I've seen so many comps with Rotom and Cinderace do very well, so I thought it looked good. So next up we drafted Ninetales. This is not a particular, I don't think this one's that hard to explain. But basically, I mean, it sets Sun, and that is really important for Venusaur, because Venusaur, is base 80 speed. So being able to set Sun and double its speed is incredibly good, on top of boosting damage from Cinderace's fire moves. and nerfing Cinderace's water weakness, which is also really nice. Um, on top of that, it gets pretty good coverage. It can set up as well with Nasty Plot, and it has stuff like Heat Wave, Flamethrower, Solar Beam, Dark Pulse. It gets Howl, Fake Tears, Baby Doll Eyes. I mean, you can read it there. Will-O-Wisp. Really great stuff, and it's got a good speed tier to make use of those support moves. Um, and yeah, I Ninetales is great, and I'm this was also on that very first team I ever drafted, so I'm really excited to use this one again. So next up we took Purloin, and basically what I was thinking with Purloin was, I think there were two or three other teams at the time that were like either had weather setters or were looking like they were going to take weather setters, and I wanted to have an option to set Sun to beat like manual switches. Because if you use a move to set Sun, it sets after switches happen. Um, but again, Purloin is not really like a super underground pick. Um, it's not the fastest fake out in the world, but it is still fake out support. Um, Stuff like Foul Play, Fake Tears, Thunderwave, Trick, Taunt, Yawn, Charm, Copycat, Screech, all very, very good options. I've run Liepard before and it was great. Obviously, Purloin's not going to be quite as good, but it was also tier 4, which I think was really high value. It provides much needed disruption. Stuff like, like giving, since I didn't take Tailwind, I think having that Prankster Thunderwave to let stuff like Rotom Wash or Cinderace or really most of the team go off, I think that's super valuable. And I think it's just going to be a really like versatile support piece on this team. So next up, I wanted to get a fantasy core because I don't like taking teams without fantasy cores. So I was thinking about what was available and what was what roles I needed. And so I reached this point after taking Purloin where I was like, okay, do I either need to take Tailwind or I need to take a Trick Room core? Because right now, if I don't take Tailwind, the obvious answer to my team with Cinderace and setting Sun for Venusaur, the obvious answer is just, set Tailwind against me, and now our speeds are even, or you're winning that, because only Venusaur gets boosted in Tailwind. So, I was thinking I needed some form of speed control. I didn't think I needed both. But the team was already looking pretty Trick Room weak. Like if Trick Room gets up, Venu under Sun and Cinderace aren't the greatest options. So I really wanted to be able to mitigate that ability to, just set Trick Room and win. Whereas like a lot of Tailwind modes, Cinderace can catch up to with max Airstreams, or Venu can still sometimes outspeed some Tailwind mons with Sun up. So it wasn't really like a super huge concern for me as much as people just setting Trick Room for free against me. Because at the time, my only Trick Room denial was like sleeping them with Venu or blitzing them out and just killing them, which is a possibility. But that being said, I decided to go with Aromatisse. Aromatisse is a mon I've always been super high on in draft. It was tier 3, so I think it was really good value. Its bulk is great. 99 special attack with Stab Moonblast is really nice. 29 speed is incredible, so that means you're underspeeding all base 30s, which there's a lot of in a lot of teams. Aroma Veil helps it not get taunted, which is amazing. And then synergies, it helps me counter opposing Tailwind, and get stuff like Fake Tears, Heal Pulse, Helping Hand, Screens, Charm after you. After you is really nice because I can set Trick Room in the front, and then if let's say they kill my Slowmon, because this team is still not a team that like really really wants to set Trick Room all the time. But like let's say I set Trick Room in the front, and 2 turns in they kill my Trick Room sweeper. I can bring in Cinderace and click after you, and suddenly my Cinderace is moving at base 29 speed instead of base 119. So like I think that's really valuable. That's really nice speed control on top of speed control. So I think that's really good. and then because of the fact that I wanted to take this fantasy core, I decided that my next pick was going to be Guzzlord. So Guzzlord is a mon. It's very interesting. Its stats are kind of weird. 223 base HP, 53 in both defenses, but 223 in HP makes it still pretty bulky. 43 is not the greatest speed tier, but since Aromatisse' speed tier at 29 is so good, I felt okay taking this as one of my Trick Room options. We all know Beast Boost is insane. The really nice thing about Guzzlord here is it's under Trick Room, it's going to be moving after Aromatisse. So Aromatisse can fire off fake tears. It can Drain Punch Guzzlord for weakness policy. And, normally it's like, oh, you see a mon with a 4 times fairy weakness, and fairies are so good and so omnipresent on draft teams that you need to have some answer for it, right? And I looked at my team and I'm like, wow. I have Cinderace, Ninetales, Venusaur, and oh yeah, it was just those at the time. So I'm like, okay, I have 3 fairy resists out of 4 mons already, or 5 mons already. Purloin is fairy weak, but it doesn't really matter because it's dies to everything anyway. Which is also why I'm not worried about having 2 dark types here. I'm Guzzlord, it does a lot, it does damage. It can be run physically or specially, pretty interchangeably, which also means you can make it beast boost in either stat really easily. And it gets basically equivalent coverage in each too. I kind of tried to pair them up, but I think some of them I lost, like Dark Pulse Crunch, Draco Meteor, Dragon Claw, Heat Wave, Heat Crash, Sludge Bomb, and then Poison Jab at the bottom. But then it gets stuff like Knock Off, Wide Guard, it gets Iron Head, Rock Slide, Stomping Tantrum, Shadow Claw, Steel Roller, which I think could be really nice. And then, like I said, stuff like Wide Guard, Knock Off for like support options. Its move pool is insanely deep, and setting Trick Room is going to be relatively easy with Aromatisse, and Aromatisse is going to support Guzzlord very, very well. So I felt really good about this pick. And then, since I had Fairy and Dragon already, I figured, okay, let's take a Steel type. And so my Steel type of choice was Berserker. Basically, Berserker felt very good to complete my Fantasy Trick Room core because it works very well in tandem with Aromatisse and Guzzlord. It boosts Steel type moves for mons like Guzzlord, since it does get Iron Head. Even I think Aromatisse gets Flash Cannon, but Cinderace Iron Heads are going to hurt when they're 1.5 boosted, which is a choice boost, or a stab boost. I thought it was 1.3. It's 1.5. Steely Spirit. So very, very strong. And it completes, like I said, it completes the Fantasy Trick Room core and gives me another fake out option that might have a little more staying power in a lot of matchups than Purloin. Overall, I really don't have a ton to say about this pick. I really was just I need a Steel type, and I need one that works under Trick Room because my other 2 are kind of a Trick Room core. So I think I'm going to take it, and I'm actually very happy with how it looks on this final comp. So next up, I took Throw in Tier 5. Basically what I was thinking was, okay, I would like to have a fighting type. And there were some fighting types I was considering in Tier 4, such as Machamp and Gallade. There's stuff like Girder too, which I probably wasn't going to take, but it was, at least something I was looking at. And those were all in Tier 4. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, I think Throw is good enough value in Tier 5 that it's worth taking. It's not going to come every week. It'll probably only come a handful of weeks out of the 10-week season. But it gets very good coverage. I've used it in the low tier league I ran a couple months ago. It gets stuff like Wide Guard and coaching. I don't know why Oh, that's cool. What's going on? I'm not sure what happened there. Am I still recording? Okay. Sorry about that. I think I unplugged my HDMI cable there. But yeah, so, it can do damage with guts. It has, it's also a decent coaching target for Cinderace, which is something I was also trying to keep in mind when building this comp. Um, and then just in general, like, it does good damage. It's decent under Trick Room. It gave me a little more staying power against opposing Trick Room teams. The bulk is good. AV Throw is one of my favorite sets ever that I've run. Yeah, and it's just really great. I think for tier 5, I think it's insane value. Again, it's probably not going to come every week, but for a tier 5, you can't expect that anyway. So then since I went relatively top heavy with 2 tier 1s and 2 tier 2s, I needed to take another tier 5 for my free slot. And so I chose Drizzile. So I think I've seen it drafted like once before. But the nice thing with Drizzile is obviously the bulk is not there, right? But it has base 90 speed and 95 special attack, which are not bad for a support piece like this. Like, you put a Scarf on this and it's going to outspeed pretty much anything, which is really, really nice. Being able to soak things next to, like, Rotom or even Venu is really cool, on top of the fact that it can proc weakness policy on Guzzlord or Venusaur with an Ice Shard, and then it gets Water Pledge, oh gosh, I can't speak. So this team does have all 3 pledges, which I think is kind of a nice option to have. I think some of the pledges are actually very, very slept on. And then just on top of that, like, the fact that it gets Screens and Haze and Mist and Safeguard and Tearful Look, I think are all very, very solid. And I think it's again, it's not going to be a mon that comes every week, because I do have stuff like Purloin on this team already, and even Ninetales to a lesser extent. But I do think that it's going to, when it does come, like when I do need like a Haze, if I put a Sash on it and just let it click Haze and die, I think there's some matchups where that's actually worth it. So yeah, I'm really excited to use Drizzile. I'm hoping I can make it come a couple times, in like maybe 2 or 3 weeks even. But yeah, there's Drizzile. And then so we got to the end of the draft and I had a tier 4 slot left, and I kind of didn't know what to do. I was kind of at this point where I was like, okay, I have quite a few physical attackers, quite a few special attackers. I have fast mons, I have base 119, I have base 29, I have Trick Room, I have my Firewater Grass and Fantasy cores, which to me are like my 2 main cores I go for every time. So I kind of didn't know what to take. It was also the last round, so there wasn't a lot going on in tier 4. So I decided to go with Tauros. Now I don't have a Frost Breath proc or like an Anger Point proc for it, but having Intimidate is very valuable, I think. Like, just the option of having Intimidate kind of means that you have to respect that, and maybe it might force people to bring White Herb, or it might force them to bring their Defiant or Competitive Mon. So yeah, and then you can even just bring Sheer Force and just deal damage. It does a lot of damage without max, which is really nice for something like Venu and Ninetales, because Venu and Ninetales and to a lesser extent Rotom are gonna kind of be those mons that always want to max if I'm using them to like kill stuff, especially Venusaur. So having like something next to them to just like chip away and like do a lot of damage without having to Dynamax, I think is really nice. It also gets, it gets amazing coverage, especially with Sheer Force boosts like Body Slam, Rock Slide, Zen Headbutt, Iron Head, Close Combat, Double Edge, High Horsepower, Throat Chop. It does get Icy Wind as well if I'm running a more supportive set. And then, I have stuff like Venu and Ninetales that are pretty physically frail but specially bulky, so the Intimidate helps them helps like mitigate the physical frailty of those mons. And yeah, I just like Tauros a lot, and I haven't drafted it before, and base 100 attack, 110 speed with Sheer Force and Intimidate felt pretty good to me. Again, it's probably not going to be a mon that comes every week, but I can definitely see this coming quite a lot and just doing consistent damage. So then, yeah, that's the team. I took a screenshot of some overall stats here. So yeah, you can see my fastest thing is Cinderace at 119. Then I have 110 and 100, and then all the way down to 29, which I'm very happy with. I think my speed tiers ended up being pretty much where I want them to be. Um, and then um, and then if you look over on the left here, you can see that my type matchups, the type, the type chart is very deceiving in my opinion. Especially when you have mons like Cinderace and Drizzile and Purloin. Like Drizzile and Purloin are like they're being sashed 90% of the time. They're not living hits like ever. Cinderace is changing types so often that it's barely ever actually going to be weak to ground or rock. I mean, it can't switch into them, but it's hardly ever going to be weak to them, because you can switch to flying type, you can switch to fighting or steel type to answer rock types. So it's really hard. I used to really swear by these type charts, like gotta make sure everything is in the green and everything's lined up. But the more times I draft, the more I kind of realize, yeah, I don't really need this. And Cinderace is just such um what's the word, such a versatile pick in terms of its typing, like since it can change so much. Like like I never like to draft a team that doesn't have a stab max airstream user, or I try not to in max formats. But then I'm like, well, so then before I took Tauros, I was like, oh, do I need a flying type? Oh no, I have Cinderace. And that's pretty much how Cinderace works, and that's one of the reasons I like it so much. But yeah, that's the team. So we got Cinderace, Venu, Rotom Wash, Ninetales, Purloin, Aromatisse, Guzzlord, Berserker, Throw, Drizzile, and Tauros. So overall, I'm very happy with this team. I'm thinking it's in the upper half of the teams in terms of power level. But yeah, I'm just very excited to use this team. I think this team looks very, very fun, and very like there's a lot of different modes and options I can use. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate you being here. If you guys are any of the Great Lakes Draft League coaches this season, especially new guys and girls and others, thank you so much for putting up with me and participating in my league. And I am really looking forward to this season. I think it's going to be a blast. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you hopefully later this week. We're going to try to get Qwilfish and Empoleon PRs done as soon as we can. So we'll see you then, and I'll see you guys next time.